bans already coming in, and we're already seeing a Lion ban come out there. Ace ban to back it up. Thatcher available for the first time in God knows how long. What's going on here, Gio?
I know, it's pretty spicy, isn't it? I like it. I mean, I guess on this map, maybe a Thatcher ban's not good, or the lack of a Thatcher ban's not going to be quite as influential as it would be on a different map per se. But the Lion and the Ace ban both could be pretty influential. Lion has been quite popular amongst a number of teams here in Brazil. Removing him takes away what is almost a crutch for some teams, especially on an aggressive map such as Coastline. And with the Ace, not only do you remove the capability for the hard breach, which you do sometimes see used depending on the site here on Coastline, but also there's all-important smokes, which a lot of teams like to utilize to obscure their plants, to obscure a lot of their movements, hold off rotations. Not gonna be there. If you want smokes, you're gonna have to bring someone else.
That someone else could be one of my favourites, a little Capital. I always feel like Capital's got a lot of space to work here on Coast. For the time being, however, W7M are going to be going with a fairly standard lineup. Nothing too crazy, especially considering what we're used to these guys playing on. Valkyrie going to be brought by Lender, someone that Lender is quite proficient with, and Valkyrie almost a must-bring when available in Siege at the moment, just due to the sheer amount of utility that is available. It is going to be enough, however, to force Padrin into an IQ, just to try and search out some of those cameras.
Yeah, it was the Valkyrie, actually, that Elender was playing a lot of that we really deeply praised him for. So certainly expect him to be playing a lot on the bottom floor, because it was a lot of the C4 play that he had that we really noticed and commended him for. What I'm really interested for in the side of W7M is that because they're starting on the attack, this has proven time and time again to be their significantly weaker side. And sure, you can argue that Coastline is maybe an attacker-sided map. We spoke yesterday about how a 3-3 split at the half is not too uncommon, but certainly wouldn't put it down to being defender-sided. So arguably, W7M are on the better half, but it's about whether that works for their playstyle and what they're good at. Especially if players like Guy get taken down early and he can't sufficiently play out his flank watch role and place those air jabs. FURIA are absolutely the type of team who will take that space and run with it.
I feel like we're also kind of asking on the side of W7M who else is going to step up alongside of Panico, because Herd's had a relatively quiet day yesterday. Guy kind of struggled to get involved in some of the action as well. I don't think anyone's actually droned Rare out there, as he's still going to be inside of Office. There is going to be an attacker that's going to be Herds, who's already made his way into Blue Bar and will find a kill. Guy in Office also. Rare, it's time to make your play. You've got to make the move. Herds finds two, shutting him down. Misdrone or not, it will not matter. And FURIA are going to be suffering after that early engage.
You know what? You love to see it. Herds is a player that we really criticized yesterday because he gets caught up in a lot of opening engagements, but usually on the half you don't want to be, and that means he dies early. He plays overly aggressive, and for an entry, a lot of his statistics are very negative and not what they need to be getting. The fact he got the 2 opening kills onto FURIA and 2 of those roamers as well, that's huge for W7M and gives them so much space and advantage on the remainder of this attack.
Especially with it being 2 C4s that were removed as well. That's just so detrimental now for FURIA. They're going to be forced to try and hold a little bit more aggressively because they haven't got a smoke. They've not brought any other significant plant denial. Sure, there's going to be a C4 on Miracle, but that's only 1 out of the 3 pieces that you were choosing to bring. Not playing a smoke here is quite unusual because it is a site where you can get a plant down nice and easily behind that A-bomb chassis on the default plant spot. So not being able to cut that off from behind sofas is going to make things quite difficult. High's looking now to make a rotation, but Guy's getting in and placing down those all-important air jabs. It's going to make the flank very difficult indeed. There has been a panel left soft as well on that sofa's wall, which is now allowing shots to be fired on through from the roof. High's knowing here that he can't rotate through and instead just left holding the angle. Kurtz is going to get shut. Sorry, going to find somebody to shut down. He's going to find Fantasy. Tyes has to make his play. He needs to try and get himself back on Insight to try and assist his teammate in Miracle as this push is continuing to come through. No sign of the plank going down yet, and with only 8 seconds left, that needs to start happening soon. Highs finds one, but he's now in a 1 versus 3. He has got the diffuser though, and could very well win this one out on time. W7M, what are you doing? FURIA clutching out on time. Round number 1, not going the way we expected there, Gio.
Big mistake there from W7M, actually, and it's kind of tragic to see because Guy was being droned in through luggage when Highs was at the top of White Stairs, and he was looking down towards 90 at the time, so didn't have his attentions paid to that player who was in luggage. He did hear the drone. That's why we saw Highs turn around and start to pay attention to that part of the map. But what ended up happening was Guy placed his air jab and then didn't push forward, didn't try to do anything onto that player. It sort of lulled him into a false sense of security, assuming that the air jab was going to be enough, and that now they had control of Aqua and the significant man advantage in a 4 versus 2, it would be much better for them. They didn't really foresee the fact that Highs would put in the time to remove that air jab because no one was watching onto luggage to stop him from doing that. And then when he took position in there and was able to be prone, W7M simply weren't aware of the position he was holding, and that is all FURIA needed to win that round, because at that point FURIA had control of the diffuser. W7M would have had to aggress onto him to reclaim control of the diffuser or kill him, both of which were the win conditions, but there just wasn't really enough time for them to do anything. So a bit of a misplay there from W7M in an otherwise pretty good round for them.
FURIA are going to be really happy with that as well. It was a big clutch considering they got themselves in fairly early on, losing both Highs and Lender. W7M maybe just feeling like they've been sort of, I don't know, unfairly treated, I guess, and the fact that they didn't just try and get that plant down. They had everything that they needed. Just hope that aggression doesn't sort of bleed into this round, because it looks as though they may be stacking up for a bit of a rush. Still no smoke being brought on the side of FURIA, but they're going to find the opening nonetheless. Miracle crawls through and grabs one. Lender coming in with the trade. These kills are back and forth and back and forth. He's going to be the last alive left outside of Lamborghini door. We've not even seen a minute of play here, Gio, and he's 1 versus 3.
Guy being the last man alive, name a more iconic duo. This is certainly something we're used to seeing here with W7M. And the thing is, while Guy is usually quite proficient at his job of flank watch, he's not necessarily a gunner. So when he's put in these situations to be left on his own to deal with them and relied upon to clutch, he's not really the guy who you want there, because that's not where his strengths lie.
A tough situation to repeatedly find himself in. We saw this quite a bit yesterday as well. And I don't believe it's really a fault of Guy as a player. He's performing that role of flank watch and trying to get his utility out on the Nomad. And if the team moves too quickly and the kills come down in such a quick fashion like we just saw them do, it can make it very difficult. His location was given away there by the default camera. He had no choice but to try and swing on the door and make something happen. FURIA here had the intel, and we're able to confirm that final kill. Second round there for them, making Coastline look pretty easy. W7M need to just take a breath, take a moment, and try and reset that mental.
I know that round, it was definitely more of a rush strategy coming in from W7M, and when an attacking team does perform a rush strategy, it's quite hard to sufficiently criticize the way that they do a clear, because there isn't really a clear. That's not part of the strategy in the first place. But you can kind of group both of those last rounds into W7M not looking as broad as they need to be in parts of the map that they should. For example, back in round number 1, you know, they had a great control take of the bottom floor down in office, but didn't look enough over towards the theater side of the map. And that's, you know, how Highs could retain that control and come back and win the round for FURIA. In that last round there, what you had was W7M come in for a rush without really considering the positioning of where FURIA were, which is a kind of similar concept Because a rush is one thing, but it has to at least be somewhat calculated, and you have to know what you're going for, where, and why. The fact is, Lender was free to just get 3 kills off of the position that he was playing right at the, you know, entrance of service. I don't mean service, entrance of service is in the door, but the entrance of service right by the bomb chassis. He wasn't taken down from that. So W7M just need to be a bit more calculated, I suppose, even if they're going for that kind of strategy, and a bit more thorough in understanding where their opponents are.
Kind of makes sense to go for the rush with smoke being banned, because you can afford to stack up a little bit on the doorway, and you know you're not going to all start inhaling toxic babe gas and just sort of get pushed out a little bit. But there's got to be a plan beyond that as well, and we need to see W7M bring in something that's giving him that entry, whether it is going to be a Capitao or, you know, a Jackal with smokes, just something to try and cut that line of sight off to try and gain access. Because if they're going to go for the brute force, they're coming up against a team of gunners here in FURIA, and it's not going to be sufficient to just try and worm your way in based on frags alone. I'm not suggesting that's what they're going to do this round, but already we're seeing quite a heavy stack up inside of that office area. Nobody vertical at the moment from FURIA, but Lender has that option. He's going to be holding at the bottom of white stairs. He's got a nice angle in through security if he wishes as well. Padron just searching out a load of intel. There is going to be one player above. That's going to be rare, so potential for some vertical play here. Pretty slow and steady push. Sure, control of office has been gained. You just get the impression that W7M are really looking for an in here, and FURIA aren't giving it to them.
Well, W7M, oh, yeah, that's a kill that they kind of needed, although it's immediate trade. I was going to say W7M need to try and get some picks below before they can really work on the vertical, because 4 C4s have been brought by FURIA. That means even if Panico, for example, goes upstairs and tries to open up the floor over, say, Blue Bar, you know, you still have the risk of being blown up from below. W7M needed that in the form of a first pick. It's just a shame for them that they got traded out. There's a second one from Guy. Maybe this is what they needed.
Miracle going to be given a chance at a drone, or a clone, sorry, which he is going to take. No hard breach on the side of W7M is really slowing them down here, and FURIA know that. FURIA are happy just to sort of play these doorways and play these narrow angles and look to try and make challenges onto them. Smoke's now being placed out, and a plant attempt coming in from Kurtz. Going to be down to Fancy to try and deny that, but Miracle comes in with a Hail Mary C4, which lands and is going to leave the diffuser useless on the Blue Bar 4. Cold and unplanted. Miracle now trying to keep control of that sauna area, but Panico gets himself an entry. Can he find the second? No. We do see Highs just sensibly backing off a little bit there. Fantasy, he grabs one. In the meantime, he's been commanding this courtyard area the entire game. Highs picks Panico. Fantasy gets Guy. FURIA 3 rounds in a row.
A very slow attacking attempt from W7M meant that FURIA's defenders, who were spread out across the map, didn't have much of a reason to stop that. You know, they still had all that room. Even those last couple of kills that we saw from different sides of the courtyard, that's where they were positioned, because they had every right and every reason to be. W7M need to get better at capitalizing on those early picks while they achieve them. Even after Herds got traded out, Guy still got the second kill. Or I suppose you could say the second engagement went in the favor of W7M by Guy getting that kill onto Rare. What that meant was W7M were back in the man advantage situation, but it didn't seem to deter FURIA at all. They weren't discouraged by it. They didn't change their defensive positioning as a direct result. They're not afraid of W7M when they get those advantages. And you look at the round count so far and you can understand why. Because FURIA have still been able to win the rounds regardless of when W7M get the kills. Now, Twitch chat prediction is up on your screens right now. Most people, unsurprisingly, I would say, think FURIA have this. That's 76% of you. 24% of you think W7M Gaming. So you're going to be earning a lot of channel points if you're right.
24 is my lucky number, so could it be a lucky number for W7M? We'll have to see. At the moment, it's maybe looking like not, as FURIA are doing exceptionally well here on their defensive rounds, as we're just seeing very one-dimensional pushes from the side of W7M. Herds now needs to make sure he recognises that that hatch is open, as Heiz is going to try and punish him. Doesn't actually land any shots. It looks as though he may have done, but it's enough to just give Herds something to think about. Now conscious of these vertical angles that have been open, he now knows he can't really play inside of office for free. Fantasy now has this intel and is in a position to try and push. He's going to be on his own, and he's doing so quite timidly at the moment. Doesn't want to overcommit to it, as he knows there's going to be players on the side of W7M that are going to be pushing elsewhere. So much pressure now being applied inside of the office area, but nobody outside on the hooker balcony. So arguably, again, a one-dimensional push from W7M. As sure, we've got somebody on the rappel, but they're not even really challenging the window. They're just kind of conscious of the jump out. Lender looks like he's tempted. Maybe you can hear that player out there on the rappel. The default cam's still being up, providing him all the intel that he needs. But instead, he's just going to play things safe for the time being.
What I do like is that we can see a player of W7M on the rappel over on the master side. That's the side of the map that W7M failed to take control of last time. Nice kill from Fantasy onto Panico, which we've spoken about it before, but if you're the player on the upside down rappel, it should be you who's getting the kills and not being headshotted. So a big loss for W7M. Maybe they'll still be able to get some kills on the other side of the map and perform something of a clear, but they're in the last minute of the round at this point, and things don't look like they're pointing in their favor.
Still 3 C4s available for the side of FURIA to try and deny this plant as well. A Surrogate on the double door is going to need burning. It will be burnt for now. You see a Gon 6 placed out as well. Not sure what the full intention is behind that, as the drone does still get stopped on that reinforced wall. Maybe for the mute jammer. Everybody on the side of FURIA just primed. They know that the time is coming for those C4s to start ripping as the smoke canister gas comes in. Can deny vision for Miracle, but is it going to be enough? Rare finds one over onto Padrin. Kurtz is crouch walking his way behind the chassis. He's going to get taken out by Fantasy. A C4 comes in for good measure. Fantasy grabs 2. Reactivates the Surrogate. That's diffuser now cold inside of the site. Herds, he's on the wrong side of the gate there. Some Fantasy finds 3. And FURIA pick up round number 4.
He's woken up from yesterday. Fantasy, not necessarily the player who showed up in FURIA's games yesterday, but he's showing us exactly why he is one of those top 10 cost players in Brazil. Really good work from him. And now FURIA have 4 rounds on the board with W7M nothing. Now, one thing that's really important to note, I think, is that FURIA just need a win against W7M to guarantee their place in the Copa Elite 6. It doesn't matter if it's in regulation time. It doesn't matter if it's in overtime. All they need to do is win. And so far, Ollie, I'd say they're on a good route to that.
They've given themselves the best chance, Gio. They've got 4 rounds in a row here. W7M kind of left scratching their heads at this point. Once again, see a fresh site, kitchen and service. I mean, last time we saw this site, W7M just tried to rush their way in and really didn't work out for them. FURIA are more than happy to hang in these gunfights, especially with the way that Fancy is hitting his shots today. That little 3K there with a little Surrogate activation in between. It's almost like you're just throwing a little bit of aim trainer into the round as well there, with that small target to just flick onto, reactivate the gate, then you can get your next headshot. Exciting stuff to watch for sure. W7M need to find something here though, because this is coastline. This is a map where attackers have an advantage. And they're flexing that advantage. They're regularly not bringing a hard breacher. In fact, I'm not sure if we've seen them bring a hard breacher yet. Now, there's an argument to say that that's hurt them somewhat on occasion. But we could also say that they're giving themselves every possibility to try and just get kills and use utility. But they're not even really being able to do that at the moment.
It's not been working out great for them. Now, what we can say straight away is this certainly isn't a rush strategy from W7M, and it looks like they're getting ready to do droning and actually approach this in a bit more of a proper fashion. It's going to be a lot harder for Hertz to try and push into office if that's what he decides he wants to do because of this player down in there. That's Highs behind the Vulcan shield. Now, there's the door that's been opened. They want to clear him out. They'll likely have to remove the shield, but he's got a drone in there, and he can directly ping onto Highs' location. Even as he backs out through the door and moves back into security, that will all be told on that drone. And with the Vulcan shield going down too, it gives W7M some room.
Look at the way that FURIA are playing, though. Already, Lender is ready to sneak his way in there. We know, well, he snuck his way in there and he snuck his way into Padrin's gun, I guess. It didn't really work out for him. Maybe Padrin found him there at the bottom of Cool Vibe stairs, just hanging around Blue as Lender had a change of heart of going through into office. A good attempt by FURIA, but equally some good information exchange on the side of W7M. We've got to call it when we see it, and they've been able there to just move the players in and around that office and blue bar and pick themselves up a rotation kill. It's an opener as well. It now kind of unlocks this top floor to some degree, but there is still going to be Fantasy playing inside of VIP. Now, he's going to be getting pressured from just about every angle under the sun here, as he's got somebody outside on the DJ booth. A really nice kill for Padrin coming in there. Nice bit of verticality coming out there on the side of W7M as he takes down Rare. But we've seen FURIA in this situation before. There were 5 versus 3 inside of round 1, and they still managed to clutch things up. So W7M need to start moving a little bit quicker here if they're going to start to try and lock things off.
That was the flank that I thought would hurt W7M, and the fact that Fantasy got caught out really makes things more in W7M's favor. Only 2 players of FURIA remain. Miracle's getting ready to throw in the C4 as Kurtz goes in for the plant, decides to continue with it, and now FURIA have to push on up.
Tough spot for Highs and Miracle to be in. A post plant with every attacker still alive, all holding vicious angles. It's going to be a flawless in the end as Kurtz and Guy pick those last 2 kills up. Where has this W7M been for the last 4 rounds, Gio?
Hey, I mean, you know, it's better late than never, I guess, to bring it on. Looking good for W7M in that round, certainly. And I think a major part of that was the thoroughness of their clear. It seemed that every single corner and crevice of the map was one that they paid attention to. And they were quite aware when tried to retake space. Big example of that was what I called out as it happened. Fantasy coming into luggage while Hertz was just sitting on the little terrace balcony thing. He knew that Fantasy was behind him. Whether or not it was because he heard him or it was caught on a drone, I don't know. All that matters is he got the kill, because that could have been quite painful for W7M if Fantasy had. It would have given FURIA so much more space. And what was really important about the way that W7M were positioned around the map in that instance was they were all pointing angles in towards the site from various places. We saw that really nice kill that Panico got all the way into the kitchen from the upstairs of the map. Hertz was in a similar position to be able to achieve the same. It was entirely designed to cut off any rotations that the defenders might make in and around the site. So being able to retain that control, especially as Kurtz went in for the plant, was hyper important for W7M, because it meant that FURIA really had no options other than to try and get aggressive within the site, despite knowing that they had eyes on them from all over. So the fact that W7M could retain that and they took that space, really good for them. And I think the time frame within which they worked as well was quite commendable.
FURIA opting for a slight change of tactic here as we see Highs bring out the Vigil. W7M have been doing quite a lot of drone work. It's something that has improved round after round, and we saw just how effective it was in grabbing them kills in the previous round. So Highs there choosing to pick the Vigil. Obviously you get the cloaking device, you can activate that and become somewhat invisible to drones. It'll still give a signal if you are in the vicinity of a drone, but you won't get an accurate location, and the signal is spread across floors as well. It's a sphere that goes all the way around Vigil, so you can actually be on a different floor and you're getting droned above, the vigil will be indicated on the drone, but you're still no closer to really locating where that player is. For the time being, Highs is going to be hiding out inside of the kitchen. We do have drones in and around the main lobby area. Pre-fire there from Herds. It seemed as though he was pretty sure of something, but giving himself a tiny little angle to work with. There's going to be an air jab on that doorway as well. W7M typically go for this office side push into Blue Bar. Fancy, has he got it in him? Has he got the aggression to try and push on through?
Now again, no hard breach has been brought from W7M, so opening up the wall on the other side of Blue Bar isn't going to be something that is an option for them. Nice kill from Herds onto Fantasy, removes that pesky defender who's been causing so many problems for W7M so far. It's the roam that FURIA are playing that's going to cause W7M a problem, if anything. Highs can't land the kill onto Padrin outside the service door, and he's probably going to have to somewhat relocate. Instead, he's just using his gadget and holding the position for now, knowing that it's going to make Padrin's life harder as he tries to push in through kitchen. But he gets a kill onto Lender as well. W7M tearing through FURIA so far.
Padrin's really stepped his game up in the last couple of rounds, and it's been a big difference maker for W7M. We're now seeing a plant attempted, but Miracle's right next to you. He's in the middle of the site. Draws for the shotguns push through office. As with the diffuser cold on the ground, it gives FURIA a lot of surety that won't be getting planted anytime soon. Highs now looking to make a rotation back on in. Padrin holding hard angles. Highs finds one onto Panico. Can he grab the second? No. Padrin with that trade. Now looks to push his way on into blue, but we've still got Miracle and Rare. Miracle doesn't have a great deal of health. He's led prone inside of office. Maybe going to try and force W7M to make this plant now, but it's being covered. Miracle, he's going to find Guy, and well, last player for W7M gets off the plant, recognizing he's going to get caught out there, sticking out like a sore thumb, crouched down in the middle of Blue Bar. FURIA, they are going to have a cracking display on defense, taking things 5 rounds to 1 here against W7M and giving themselves the best possible opportunity at shutting this game out nice and early.
Despite the fact that W7M were pretty effective at removing a couple of those roamers from around the map, the real thing that hurt them in that round was the fact that they had no vertical control over the site. When you don't bring a hard breacher and thus can't open up those lines of sight into Blue Bar, you can't afford to just rely on the doorway to pass through. You can't just rely on going in, making the plant with the smoke. Because when you have players like Miracle who are still on the site, how are you going to pressure him? You don't have a breach through which you can hold a line of sight. You're not holding any rotations. But you're not upstairs either. You haven't made vertical holes into the site through which you can also hold those rotations. It basically meant that Kurtz kind of walked in blind to a site, left on his own to hope that he'll survive out the plant, and there's no way that his team can support him in that. Even when we saw right at the end, the alibi was still upstairs. I can't remember who it was who was playing the alibi, but it doesn't really matter. The alibi was still upstairs in hookah. You could see the silhouette directly above the site. That is a part that needed to be cleared by W7M and have the control taken. Because, as I say, you haven't brought a hard breacher. You can't hold that control laterally. You need to do it vertically, or you will get taken down. And that's the fate that they suffered. And it's a shame, because the start of the round looked like it was really good for them. And as you say now, Ollie, FURIA are on the ostensibly better half, given that they've moved on to the attack now. They only need to get 2 rounds on the attack before they take a pretty convincing win here against W7M on Coastline.
FURIA are opting to bring the Capitale, one of my personal favourites here on this map. Something that W7M brought in a way. They still brought smoke grenades, but they didn't bring the Capitale. They didn't get the additional fire arrows that he brings. And that can often be a nice little sort of crowd control mechanism, just to push your way into sight a little bit further. Why am I not being picked from W7M means that those fire arrows and smoke arrows are going to be very safe as well, because ADSs, of course, don't catch them. They're only caught by magnets. W7M have got quite a nice off-site hold here. Highs has got himself quite into a bit of a sticky spot, but he finds an opener onto Guy. I think he knows he's being chased now, as Kurtz has maybe given the game away a little bit, and Nice little hole there going to be open, so Kurtz is going to struggle to make that rotation through. So many guns for the side of FURIA pointed in this direction now. And Heiss can just sort of relax and hold it. No, he peeks through the Dorch through the hole, and Kurtz, he's going to find one onto Heiss. He's going to get his chips and dip as he makes his way out to outside of VIP. Now looking for an alternate line of attack, and he's going to find it. Gets one onto Lender as well. Somebody shut this man down. It's going to come down to Rare. He's got the intel. He knows exactly where Kurtz is playing. It wouldn't be a bad idea to use your utility, but no, Kurtz is going off here. Somebody stop him. Fantasy will finally grab him as he gets a second onto Padrin. Herds, he wasn't there in pursuit. He wasn't there assisting his teammate, and you can't really blame him because Herds has gone pretty massive there. Time for everybody just to take a breath as there is still 45 seconds inside of this round.
It was kind of messy, and maybe the defenders had no excuse to not shoot through all the soft walls they had there to shut down the attack, but nonetheless, that's the way it is, and it's a 2 versus 2. As you say, the final 30 seconds now, Panico just peeking round towards VIP, and Fantasy's going to be doing work here on the hookah balcony.
Panico seeing a bit of pressure here as Miracle could be trying to go for a plant, but no, he's just going to go straight for the kill. Finds one, Herds gets this trade, but Fantasy comes up massive. He shut down Kurtz, he finds the last onto Herds. He's been a standout player today on the side of FURIA, and that is enough to put FURIA onto match point.
It feels like it's been such a short game. We're not used to that here in Brazil. Usually they drag out and it's constantly backwards and forwards. One thing I do have to say, though, is I don't necessarily think the scoreline fully reflects the performance of W7M right now. In fact, I would argue W7M look more put together and they look cleaner than they did in their game yesterday against FaZe. You could argue it's a slightly different caliber of team, but FURIA have been pretty consistent in taking the top spots in the leaderboard this stage, so I don't really know how much that argument stands. Either way, it just so happens that while W7M have been having really good first halves of many of their rounds, it's about the later half. It's about what happens when there are fewer of them alive, and how FURIA compare when they also don't have as many men alive. In a 5 versus 5, W7M don't really seem to be having many problems to get good control and use good utility. They've been getting good kills and had some really nice drone spots as well when they were on the attack. But it's when you're down in those 3 versus 3s or those 2-2s, W7M seem to pale in comparison to how FURIA are playing. Now, this is a really interesting choice of site. W7M have opted to come to Penthouse and Theatre, which is always a bit of a treat because we don't get to see it a ton. And I suppose the idea here is they want to take FURIA to somewhere they're not expecting because W7M know that they only have this one round to do anything with. They don't have a lot of time or opportunity to try and drag this back in their favor. FURIA are on match point.
It just strikes as a bit of a last-ditched attempt, doesn't it, Gio? Like, where are we going to take him? Okay, we'll take him to Penthouse and Theatre. And we kind of worry when we see that because, and we might not see it in this round, but this round could demonstrate why this site isn't picked very often. I mean, just on the face of it, it's got a double window that leads directly into site. Now, you could argue that's very similar to the double window that we have on Hookah and Billiards, and it is. But there is also a hatch that leads directly into the bathroom area, which is only one room away from site, and a very important rotation throughout the whole of that map is going to be the Hall of Fame area, or guitar, where the sort of short red corridor with the records on the wall. So it doesn't strike me as being a sort of solid pick here now. It could work in the sense that FURIA have to come up with something on the fly a little bit, and maybe W7M have a bit of a pocket strategy for this site. It seems as though they're going to be able to get a lot of the stuff dealt with that they need, as vertical control can easily be gained as long as you have access to main lobby, which at the time Fantasy does. Panico's going to grab an opener. Fantasy doesn't quite manage to get one back as a trade, as Herds just sneaks past, but no, will re-peek and find a kill over onto Fantasy. W7M giving themselves the best chance here, as FURIA are still left chasing these shadows. Can Miracle be a difference maker? Instead, chooses just to place an air jab and force a full rotation.
You can tell the Hertz knows that as he is rotating all the way around, and FURIA have made the breach as well onto the theater wall. We spoke about how little hard breach has been brought in this game, but luckily Hibana was on the board. And that's exactly what Rare has done. W7M making some rotations upstairs while FURIA consider their options. Just trying to hold in some angles down towards 90 and into the site itself. You can see Miracles getting ready on the rappel while Rare goes in for the plant.
He's going to have to try and do something about this, but that plant's going to go down without a hitch. It's now been reversed, and W7M have all of the pressure onto their shoulders. They've still got yokai drones, and they're going to, in fact, use it to get the kill over onto Lender, as Rare is now in a pretty big world of hurts as he gets swung by Herds. Plenty of time to disable that diffuser. Guy's going to be the one to pick that up. Everybody still alive on the side of W7M at the end of that round in a post plant isn't something that we get treated to very often, Gio. That was a bit of a weird round.
Yes. And it means that W7M can now breathe a sigh of relief that they get at least one more round. The difficulty with that, though, is that they're going to have to go to a site where they're not going to be able to throw FURIA off quite as I think the way that Herds played downstairs as well really helped W7M, because it was something that FURIA couldn't take control of. They lost Fantasy early, and at that point they had to pay their attentions to what was going on upstairs. They didn't have a ton of control of rotations around the map, so it meant that W7M had a lot of room to be moving their players around. Even when FURIA had lines of sight down through the site from their breach, they were watching onto 90 and had Miracle on the rappel. No one from W7M was putting themselves in harm's way. And I'm going to be honest, Ollie, I'm glad to see it, because that is a problem that W7M have had in this stage. They waited, the plant went down, and then they could make their move in, knowing that they had so much space to work with that FURIA simply didn't have available to them.
Second time to try and convert this match points here for FURIA. They're going to be attacking onto Kitchen. This time they've dropped the Hibana in favour of the Capital. Making pretty good predictions, really, as to where W7M are going to be going and what utility you need to be bringing as an attacker lineup. Padron got that nasty angle from inside of Penthouse that looks down onto that service doorway, so going to be trying to stop any sort of rush attempt. Also got Herds playing on the pulse, able to gather quite a bit of intel, as of course it is one of the smaller maps. An instant swing from Fancy. I don't think he knew that he was going to be there and has really won that out on favourable gun skill. He'll grab himself a second. Guy tried to get a trade, but no, he will be shut down. Fantasy with an early 2. Kurtz trying to find something for W7M. We'll grab one over onto Lender. But a lot of damage has been done there. That's a lot of your information removed on Herds and 2 C4s.
Significant amount of defensive prowess straight away taken off the map. In return, you only have Lender missing, and you could argue, oh, goodbye Panico, that's another C4, and it's your Kaid, and it's a third guy, leaving just Padron and Kurtz remaining to defend this site on their own. And Fantasy seems to be on fire in this round. He wants his revenge, and he's showing that yesterday was a bit more of a fluke in terms of his personal performance. Kurtz narrowly getting caught in an altercation, but Fantasy is finally taken off the board.
Padron, he's going to be receiving a lot of shots there, but a swing from Kurtz, some aggression being shown. Thinks about a C4, but knows he's getting pushed from the window. Rare picks a beautiful rotation kill up there, as the information exchange on the side of FURIA is just far superior at the moment. Padron, he hasn't got a lot of health, but what he has got is 1 kill. Can he find a second? MX4 Storm, an ideal gun for this. It's such a fast fire rate. He's got a chance of popping multiple heads here. Miracle will confirm that plant. Padron just gets himself caught inside of the doorway. Needs to take a moment to breathe. will still be trying to pre-fire his way on in, really looking to get one of these kills. He's going to get full white flashed there, but he isn't pushed. Second stun comes in, and he will actually dodge that one. Tries to pre-fire his way through, but it's going to be rare to grab that last kill. FURIA, they take coastline here very convincingly against W7M.
Making it look so easy, and after the game that FURIA played against Team Liquid on Coastline, it looked like a completely different team, I'll be honest. As a direct result, FURIA have confirmed that they have qualified for the Copa Elite 6. They are up there, guaranteed. Look at that, Fantasy 14-5, absolutely nutty statistics coming out from this team.